This is the World Economic Forum. And, yeah, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but it seems like the global elitists are looking at China as if it's the global model. There's a lot of very wealthy, rich, prominent people that are basically controlling our lives that think communism is great. They love the level of control that Xi Jinping is able to hold over his nation. And the People's Republic of China is not a republic. It's more essentially a communist dictatorship without virtually claiming to be a dictatorship. It is very, very obviously communist, though. And we're going to talk about this. The future global order will be managed by China and the U.S. Get over it. Don't you like how fucking cocky they are? World Economic Forum. Who wrote this? The images from Reuters, Jason Lee. Robert Mugga? Is this the guy that wrote it? Or is this just this guy cited? Can't tell. Don't know. At least 3 competing versions of the future of the world crashed together at the World Economic Forum gathering at Davos last month. And if you don't know, Davos is a powerful, rich group of elite, the most wealthy, influential, and people in positions of power across the entire world. They all meet there and they make plans, and then they go back to their own countries and then they make policies. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but there's actually a lot of times where, like the COVID pandemic, the response is very almost instantaneous and highly recognizable throughout the world. One person, one country will do one thing, another country will do the exact same thing, almost at the same time. It's very coordinated. A lot of these guys plan things preemptively together a lot, and even the news media, it's kind of the same thing. The head speaker is Klaus Schwab, and I forgot to find it this time, but in the last video that I did, I had a video of him bragging about owning politicians, media companies, and so forth. And yeah, they're all on the same script, basically, so that they can give you the same regimen of propaganda, essentially. Now, I'm going to continue reading. There was the one peddled by a combative Donald Trump calling for a full-scale U.S. retreat from the current order. Another one came from the Chinese leaders who proposed a new global economic system built around Beijing. Meanwhile, Canada's Justin Trudeau, France's Emmanuel Macron, urged Western leaders to double down on the current liberal order. It would be a mistake to dismiss the specialist as an empty grandstanding. This debate is deadly serious. The outcomes will likely determine the future global stability and security and prosperity of everyone. Not really. They mostly just care about themselves and power and trying to control you more and more. If the leaders of major countries and international organizations cannot see eye to eye, we are in for a very tough ride. Rather than withdraw, what is needed more than ever are new ideas, institutions, and blueprints to navigate the coming storm. We are living in abnormal times. The global liberal order is in an advanced state of meltdown because of all the infighting. And as the world rapidly shifts from a unipolar to multipolar reality, the international system itself exposed to a profound instability. If not handled with extreme care, the potential for a major collapse is real. The question is whether our world leaders are capable of fully understanding what is happening in real time and can muster the collective action to set new rules of the road. The global liberal order served as the bedrock of peace and stability since 1945. Not essentially correct. It was purposely designed by the U.S. and Western allies to prevent armed conflict and economic nationalism, giving rise to it. It is composed of the United States, International Monetary Fund, then the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and the Atlantic Treaty Organization, the G2O, and a thicket of treaties and agreements. While experiencing its ups and downs, it sets the rules for the stable, positive sum game. All about the new global order, the new world order. And then once this collapses, it's did a great reset. But let's continue reading. While virtually everyone agrees that the rule-based system is essential to managing security and trade, a power struggle is underway for who writes and enforces them. The spectacular rise of China over the past 2 decades and the relative decline of the U.S. means that its sparks are bound to fly. Yet most Westerns are only dimly aware of what's occurring, since the rug is so quickly pulled out from under them. The potential for catastrophic miscalculations, including U.S. trade actions against China, are rising, and with potentially devastating cascade of effects of the global economy. Yeah, if we try to impose sanctions on China or not do fair deals with them, we're screwed, because especially if they want to take Taiwan, where all those chips are made. We have one of the largest car markets here in the United States, and we rely on that for everything. We used to be one of the largest creators of silicon chips in the world, but instead of having all of our manufacturing here and having all our rare earth minerals stripped, we outsourced to China, where they have the rare earth minerals, and then it became Taiwan. Taiwan are masters at doing things like this with these very perfectly engraved silicon chips with all these rare earth minerals. We're no longer a producer of anything like that, like the recent shortage that we had of automotive chips, and I still cannot buy a new Xbox because of the chips for the consoles, and I'm still working with an ancient PC because of the chips for the PCs. Now, there's the trade that's already been fucked up with the ships in the canal not being unloaded and everything, and then there's a whole lot of political war games going on between China and Taiwan. Taiwan really doesn't want anything to do with conflict, but China is dead set on taking them. And if China takes Taiwan, what does that mean for us? Well, we're gonna have to figure our own shit out real quick. First, China is in the process of surpassing the U.S. economically. It's not going to take much, because all the inflation that has been catching up to us slowly by all the big banker bailouts that we did, $30 freaking trillion not very long ago, is starting to catch up to us. And then we just spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to tell everyone to stay the hell home and not work, putting even more of a damper on our economy. And, you know, even if everybody decides to go back to work, if they keep passing bills like this, our inflation is going to keep going up and up and up, and then our dollar isn't going to be worth a damn thing, and no one's going to want to trade with us, because the only thing that we have of value is our assets and our real estate. Really, most of our manufacturing and production, we rely on China for. By one measure, 35% of the world's growth from 2017 to 2019 will come from China, 18% from the US, 9% from India, and 8% from Europe. By 2050, the top 5 largest global economies are likely to be China, India, Brazil, the US, and Indonesia. Is the West even remotely prepared for this kind of world? Second, China is leading the largest urbanization and infrastructure development scheme on Earth. Already in its 5th year, the $900 billion One Belt Road project includes new roads, shipping lanes, and building projects stretching over 65 countries. The idea is to literally rewire global trade from China throughout Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. While details are hazy, the OBOR is being financed by the Chinese state banks and the modest strategic contribution by new Chinese-backed Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and partnership with other institutions. Third, China is set to become a global green powerhouse. China signaled its intentions to take the lead in climate change reduction after signing the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. By 2025, most new cars in China will be fully electric vehicles. China is aggressively cutting coal usage, and blah blah blah, climate change stuff. Fourth, China is also setting the pace in digital economy, including cashless payments. Hello. Chinese universities also vaulting to the top of the international rankings. It goes on to say, all of this will be hard to swallow for the stalwarts of the global liberal order. It will also need to be explained to the public that it is accustomed to linear change. The current transformations are both non-linear and increasingly exponential, processes that are hard for humans to grasp, but we are fixated to the forward march of democracies and underlying principles on which they are based, yet we must learn to compromise and accommodate multiple value systems. The next order will be more complex and potentially more precarious, but that is the brave new world we face. Now, they talk about all of the stuff that they think is going to happen openly, and, you know, they already know that the U.S. is in rough shape, and that our economy is shit, and that our dollar is being devalued. And the last thing that I want to talk about this is from the Washington Examiner. It's a few places are talking about this, and no one really totally mentions the United States, but I'm gonna draw the comparison between China and the United States on this one. Have you ever noticed that men are becoming less and less masculine, especially in the West? It's happening in pop culture in China too, but China sees it as a problem, and we should too. China pushes to combat feminization of male use while encouraging masculinity. The Chinese Communist government is pushing to combat feminization of the country's male population to foster an environment better suited for cultivated masculinity. The proposal to prevent the feminization of male adolescents was released last week by the country's education ministry, which calls for the reforms to school physical education curriculum and a push to recruit more ex-athletes as teachers. And one of the things that I saw, which is pretty freaking insane, is a kid, it looked like 5 to 7 years old, loading a freaking mortar and shooting it. Like, totally awesome. If I was a kid that age and I was able to do that, that would have been one of the leading up to now, that'd probably been the most badass thing that I would have ever done if I got to do that. Not only that, but you're committing to a thing of patriotism too, when you get to connect on a portion of your country on such a level like that, like the military, and becoming comfortable with that sort of a setting. You're more likely to actually join the military and fight for a cause with your country. But it goes on to say that the education ministry document says that the athletic teachers will help vigorously developing male students with athletic abilities while cultivating students' masculinity. Some Chinese officials have long expressed concerns that the country's male population has becoming too feminized, with one delegate to the National Advisory Board saying that the last year the nation's males were becoming weak, timid, and self-abasing. Now, we have the same thing going on here, but for some reason everyone is celebrating it full-heartedly, and we got to recognize that it's a problem, or we're going to have a much, much bigger problem. The delegates of whatever the hell that is said young Chinese males were trending towards feminization, which he claimed would inevitably endanger the survival, development, and Chinese nation unless it was effectively managed. Xi Shefu said that much of the blame is for the trend of Chinese home life, where males are often raised by mothers and grandmothers. He also pointed to a rise in... Where the fuck was I? Mothers and grandmothers. He also pointed to a rise in Chinese celebrities who did not want to be army heroes as another issue. You know, like all the K-pop kind of shit that's going on. Whatever the hell that is. It's not good. If you haven't told, I don't like pop culture that much. Especially not all the prissy shit. But not all of China's population agrees with the country has a problem, causing some to express their disagreement with the drive of the country's most popular social media platform. This is feminization now a derogatory term? My Rebo user asked. Boys are also humans, being emotional, timid, and gentle. These are human characteristics, another added. But a strong nation wants strong people, especially men. Where do you think we would have been in World War II if we were the way we are now as a nation? Of course, we have a lot of servicemen and women that are very courageous and willing to do anything and everything they can to accomplish any goal. But as a nation, as a whole, we've become very weak and very timid. Our ideologies have just been skewed. And I think it stems from our morals. We used to be a very God-fearing country. And I'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to finish reading this article. What I've been afraid of? Being the same as women? Wondered one user. There are 70 million more men than women in this country. No country in the world has such a deformed sex ratio. Isn't that masculine enough? Some social media users blasted the idea as sexist, while others took aim at the fact that Chinese leadership is currently dominated by men. And none of these proposals have come from women, one user said. And that's that. Now, one thing that I'm gonna say outright that I believe this isn't proven fact or anything. It's not a published article that I'm reading. This is just my opinion. And in my opinion, I believe that the degradation of our society started when we started falling away from God. Now, I'm not even a highly religious person, but the one thing that you gotta understand is, whether you believe it or not, you have to admit that the morals and principles of Christianity, serving as a backbone for our nation since its founding, were very, very, very strong principles. And they were just. Very, very just. Having that moral code and knowing right from wrong and having integrity, knowing where you stand on certain issues and basically standing your ground on your beliefs and what you thought, and especially your religion. That was a really big deal. Those were reservations that people would never give up. And without Christianity and the principles and morals that it states, you have more of a godless society where you don't really respect your neighbor as much as you should. You don't really have such a sense of being. So that way, there's a great chance that you can't actually sympathize with the human compassion as much as you could have if you were a religious person. And I'm not telling everybody who listens to this that you need to be religious. I'm just stating an observation that I've had. And it's my opinion that we've really started going downhill once the percentage of the congregations started going way down, showing that less and less and less people are attending church. Now, I know that a portion of those people, because of the times that we live in, have to work more often and don't really have the time to attend a service for church. That doesn't mean that they're not religious, but there's a huge change in numbers since 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's just on a steady decline of people becoming more and more and more godless. I mean, honestly, you could think about it. You could watch all the people walking around acting like they're dogs, wearing dog stuff, literally having people walk them on a leash, or you have polyamory, where you. Why is it always some unhealthy looking woman with green hair and 5 guys around her? No, that's kind of odd. Don't like it. Don't even like the idea of it. And I don't like the mental images that it gives either. I feel like I'm probably going to leave it there. As crazy as that is, all the things that I've talked about. And I'm going to call it that. All of these things that I've talked about, and all of these issues that I've raised, even my opinion, I want to know where you stand. If you watch this, probably no one will. Let me know. Reach out to me. I'm going to be posting this to YouTube, Rumble, and it's going to be on my, I'm going to have links on it on my Facebook page called Where Do You Stand? And I openly encourage any form of open discussion, even if you disagree with anything that I say. I want to know your opinions, and I want to know your points, and I want to know where you stand. That's all. I want to thank you for listening to Where Will You Stand? Next upload tomorrow. We'll see you then. God bless.